evening.
I was here early.
Yeah. When it first comes on.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to welcome you all to the beautiful downtown Cary Link. My name is Ted Reinhardt, and I'm currently the board president here for the Link. And tonight it is our honor and privilege to welcome Mr. Tony Droll, a Cary native, back here to the Link for his first time back home in 60 years since he first went to Zambia.
60 years.
Yeah, 60 years since he first went to Zambia back in 1965. So yes, we're happy to have him. I think there will be some good stories of humor, stories of adventure, but also I think a good story for the Christmas season of peace on earth, goodwill to men, something that he's tried to bring in his work over there. So I really didn't have anything prepared, and you'd rather listen to him talk than me, I'm sure. So without any further ado, if you could give Brother Tony a warm welcome, I appreciate
it. Well, it really is my pleasure to be here and to have relatives Sorry, I had a stroke before I came earlier in the year, so if I get stuck on a word now and then, you have to Florida, Fostoria, who else? Family, yes. It's good to see farmers here, and Brother Randy, he's home. And of course, we got Reinhardt's and family. How can I start this out? Well, Ted already said that I am here 60 years in Zambia, but I have been here since 1965, and I grew up out of town here on the old Frank Miller farm west of Cary, and in the 1940s I went to Cary High School, OLC School, and then I went on to Mount St. Francis Seminary School for high school. So what was very interesting at that time was how I got to there. I would like to say from the beginning, Zambia, where I have gone to, is a country the size of Texas. There's 20 million people in it. There's 20 million people in Dallas, I suppose, in one city. And it is a very, very good country. And I say that not only if you look it up on the internet, it'll say it is the most friendly, peaceful country in all of Africa. We've never had any war, never had any coup, we've never had big political problems, a little bit of corruption now and then, but we have never had floods, never had big rains that cause a lot of problem. We've never had drought, a small drought last year, not too much. We haven't had hot cyclones and tornadoes and all those things. And it is a very good country. But the biggest thing about the country is its people. And that's what draws me there, and that's what draws many people there, and that's why we stay. They're good people, but they're poor. And when you work with the poor, many times, other places I've seen you complain, we don't have this, we don't have that, whatever. These people, some of them that I work with, they have to carry water. Welcome.
Well, I thought it was 7, you started early.
No, 6:30. Mary, you're never late.
The paper said 7?
I think, but it doesn't say 6:30.
If you would go into the compound right now in my country, you'd see women and girls carrying a bucket on top of their head for water. And there is no water in their well, so they go to some place where there's a borehole well and pump it out and carry it to their homes. And at their homes, that water is for drinking, washing dishes, cooking, I suppose it's for bathing. Because they can't carry that much water and they have to carry up. And yet when you meet them, they're happy people. They'll smile, they'll greet you. And that is one of the greatest gifts I think that we have, our people. And I've been asked by people, what is a missionary? What does it mean to be a missionary? And as I look at it, a missionary just isn't carrying the Bible around. A missionary just isn't preaching. A missionary isn't just going out and building a school. A missionary isn't just helping people. A missionary isn't getting involved with refugees, and that's serious. But it's a part of the whole thing. I think the best explanation I could give of a missionary is from the gospel: love God first and love your neighbor second. If you can be a missionary and love your neighbor, like we're all supposed to do, and even love those who are in trouble and help them, I think that's the best description of a missionary. So, when I was growing up, I think you might remember it.
He more than me, because he's
I don't know if you remember that.
he's a little bit older than you are.
Yes, this guy and I, we were kind of troublesome when we were growing up. We were just a couple years in age, but not bad. We weren't bad. We're just kind of troublesome. And my sister tells me that every Sunday morning after church I got spanked because I played around in church. And well, now that was in the 1940s, huh? And I had to get punished for various things on the farm. But it happened one day when I was on the farm. My job was to feed the sheep and feed the chickens. And one of my jobs was to sweep the sidewalks. And so I had a problem with chickens and the sidewalks. You know what a chicken can do to a sidewalk? And then you have to scrub it off. Well, I was out with my catapult one day. What do you call it here?
Slingshot.
Slingshot, yeah, catapult. And the chicken started going across the grass. And I said, don't do it, don't. And it got right on the sidewalk, and I pulled up that slingshot and I was going to hit it in the backside. I cracked it on the side of my head, and it dropped dead right on the sidewalk. And Mother came out of the house at that time, and she said, I don't know if you ever heard this story. And Mother said, son, that was a good laying hen. She gave us an egg every day. And this was not long after World War II, when getting an egg and getting things from food was not easy. My father used to have to go out and kill a rabbit when coming home. And she said, you clean that up and put it on the table for tonight. And she said, wait till your father comes home. Much as I loved my father, he hit a little harder than Mom did. So he came home. And this is my conversion story, so. He came home. Every night I would see him stop the car, go in the house, give Mom a hug and a kiss, sit down at the table, and they would drink coffee together and talk about what happened during the day. Probably that's normal life, huh? And at that time when he came home, I was looking through the barn like this. And I was waiting for her to say, Tony, come here! But she didn't. She didn't say anything. I thought, she forgot. But all of a sudden she called very sweetly and she says, come in the house, get your boots on, and get us pliers because I want you to go down and fix the fence with your father. And the sheep got through the fence. And so we started walking. And my father was silent. And he said nothing. And he said nothing. And finally he said, son, I hear that you are being troublesome. You look at the age you are now. It's time you start learning what you're going to do in life, where you're going to go, what is going to be your dream, and what are you going to do. It's time that you stop messing and playing around. And as he talked, there were tears in his eyes. And I said, no more, never again. And I have never made a problem. I never got spanked afterwards. But what it did to me, instead of spanking me, he simply gave me what I needed to hear. Shape up, you know, get a vision in your life. And so very shortly after that, I went to Mount St. Francis, and I went through the 4 or 5 years down there. And on the 5th year of Mount St. Francis, there was a Brother Louis Fouquet, who maybe you met him. I don't recall. Brother Louis Fouquet came out of World War II. And what he saw in World War II, he wouldn't talk about. But I know he saw blood and death and everything. And he didn't want to talk about it. He became a brother, and he wanted, first of all, to go to the missions. And so he asked the provincial. And in grade 12, he came in front of the chapel with all of us seminarians in there. And the provincial said to him, my brother, go, you are sent forth to the missions. A missionary has to be sent forth, not just say, I want to go. Go, you are sent forth. And he put a little card around his neck, a cross that big. And that got me like that. I said, now I know what I want. I felt it so badly, so strongly, that I've never lost it, and I haven't lost it yet. I said, I want to go do what he's doing, because I'm a brother also. I'm not a priest, and I wanted to go and do what he was doing. Well, I graduated from high school, and when I went for my year of novitiate, a strict year of novitiate, and after novitiate, I took my vows. I vowed my life to God in these 3 vows: poverty, chastity, and obedience. And I asked the provincial, can I go to, well, then it was Northern Rhodesia, but a few years later it changed to Zambia. I asked Albert Least, remember him, Randy?
Oh, yeah.
And he said, well, actually it was Basil Heiser.
Yeah.
And he would say to me, son, the Lord will let you know. He said, now we want you to go up to Minnesota. We just bought a new property, and we want you to run the dairy. There's a big, beautiful dairy barn there with 36 stanchions, and all you have to do, you get the automatic milkers and a big steel tank, and we want milk for our seminary. And so I did. And 9 years I was up there still thinking about Northern Rhodesia. And every time I'd see Father Basil, I'd say, Father, when can I go to Zambia? He tapped me on the shoulder and said, the Lord will let you know. Well, in the summer, in the year of 1964, snow came. Well, first of all, in the year of 1964, the milk prices in Wisconsin and Minnesota went down, 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 so that small farmers had to sell out. You couldn't keep cows if you only had 20 cows, 30 cows. They were selling to the big ones. And I liked my dairy, and I was holding on to it. And then most of the priests and people around wanted to close the dairy. And one time I got the idea, okay, I know I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to have to close this dairy, because I was successful. So I went and had a day of prayer, and I came back and I wrote the letter, Dear Father Provincial, I volunteer to go to Rhodesia, Northern Rhodesia. And he wrote back exactly what I knew he would say. Yes, brother, you may go. First you close the dairy. And I did. And I sent all my cows down to Mount St. Francis to Brother Brian, who was down there. And then, so that was 1964. And that was the last time I had, 64 was the last time I had Christmas in America, here in Cary. And in the winter of 64, the snow came to Minnesota about like that. A lot of snow. And in the spring of 65, the rain came and it melted the snow, and the Minnesota River, which was only a mile away from the seminary, the water came up, and it came across the road, the tar road, Highway 212, and it came up into the barnyard, this deep in the barnyard, and went inside the barn, this deep inside the barn. What would have happened if I had ever been, if I'd stayed there, because I had cleaned it out and I was gone. And they put a sign on the road. High water mark, April 17, 1965. April 17, 1965, I was in JFK Airport in New York, being the first missionary to fly by a plane to Zambia. Do you think that God has a sense of humor? Said, brother, close this place down. I'm going to flood the place. And I did. And I got what I wanted, and they got what they wanted, and I got to Zambia. It had changed. It was Zambia then. Well, stage one, I finally got to Zambia. They took me into the rural area of farthest away from the mission, from the towns. I'm speaking kilometers, 500 kilometers, I don't know how many miles that is, in dirt road out to Angola border. Angola on this side, Zambia here, to the Angola border. I was only a mile and a half from the Angola border. And I was there teaching young boys. And after teaching them, we had 3 classes, trying to get those boys up so that they could get something, because they didn't have any education then. And I was with Brother Joe Weisling from Findlay. He was there before me. And while we were teaching, I got involved with social work. I would go to the people and I would say, you know, if you want to try and get some stones out of these fields and get some stumps out, I'll get you some seeds and I'll get you fertilizer and I'll help you to get planted. Because before that, they were only living off of cassava, which is a root, like a potato underneath the ground. Tapioca, I think it's called, yeah. And so I used to be able to help them. Well, one of the fun stories now, or whatever, is, I don't know if Ted has a picture, but the people came to me one day and said, brother, please come to the village. Come, there is a big snake in the cassava field, and we won't take our babies there because that's a python. They would eat our babies. So she said, we're going to starve if somebody doesn't do something about that snake. Well, I didn't want to take the gun. So I went with my friend, and we found a hole, like the hole was over here down in the ground. And we got down and looked in the hole, and I could see his body, just see part of his stuff. He was this big. And I went over here, and we dug a hole here, and I could see part of the snake's body. So my friend was Pete, and I said, Pete, you get a pole, and we're gonna pull this thing out. So I got down, I went right in the hole, pulled him out, pulled me right back, strong. And I said, you better get a pole, and as soon as I pull him again, you get the pole underneath. And so I did it once again, and he put the pole underneath, and then we pried him out. 13 feet long. Here to the wall. It was in Mother's house, you know that. The python skin that I brought. Anyhow, we kept it live, and we put it into a little cage or thing, and we had it for about 3 days. And one morning, the sisters came pounding on our door, says, "Get that thing out of our rabbit house!" And it had killed 8 rabbits, and was just getting ready to start eating them. So we caught him again, and then finally we took him to a taxidermist. And I did have the skin taxidermied. It was very nice. I brought it here to carry before the law came. Well, that's just one of the stories that happened at that. Just another story about that time of there. I became friends with the chief, and we were very good friends. I was teaching 3 of his children, his boys, and he sent me a letter, and he said, "Brother," he said, "there are 2 elephants that are terrorizing our gardens, and they are eating all the gardens." You know, an elephant can just take a whole cabbage, you know. And they're terrorizing our gardens. And he said, "I have a license from the wildlife department to have them killed. And if you would like to kill the elephant, I will give you 90% of the meat for your schoolboys." Now, I was trying to feed 50 boys. It's kind of hard to do when you don't have much food. And so I said, "Yes." He said, "If you don't do it, my uncle will." So, and I knew the uncle was a very good hunter. So I went to the old Baptist missionary who had been a hunter. And he gave me the gun. It's a 3.75 Magnum. And he gave me the shells to put into it. And he said, "If you think you're going to go out there and kill that elephant, don't think of this. That's too hard. You won't manage. And don't think of this, because you won't manage. And don't think of going for the heart. You'll miss. And don't think of going for the knees like the Africans would do. Beat the knees until they could get the elephant down." He said, "What you do is you take a little line between its eye and its ear, and put a point in the middle and shoot up." And so he taught me. He says, "Okay." I said, "Here's some bullets, go." So I went back, and the old chief had about three guards with him, 3 of his men, and they took me in the thickest bush you could ever imagine. So thick you couldn't hardly walk. It was just a jungle, like a jungle. And walking through that, and they said, "It's there." And they turned around and went back. So I had to get down on my hands and knees and look during the bottom of the trees where there was, I saw one leg. So I crawled to the place where I saw, and 2 elephants were in an opening, little opening, probably about the size of this room, half the size of this room, and they were eating grass, or eating something or other. And I was very, very close. 9 paces. How many paces from there to there? 9 paces from that wall to that wall. I was that close to the elephant. And I was laying on my stomach with the gun, and they didn't see me. And I waited and I waited and I waited until he finally turned his head this way, and I shot down. Never. And the other one ran away. And the guys came up and they started shouting, "Kabinda, Kabinda," the hunter. They cut off the tail, stamped it on my head, blood dripping down my face, said, "You were the hunter." Well, then we start to cut. And they get on the top of it with an axe, and they start cutting the meat and take off pieces like this and put it onto bamboo poles like this, and poles across this way. And we had about 8 of those bamboo platforms. And we put all the meat on top and start fires underneath. We had to do it before dark because if you don't have fire, the predators will come. There are lions there, and leopard, and the jackals, and hyena, and so they could come. But they're afraid of fire. So we slept right next to it. Slept right on the ground next to our meat. And this went on for 2 or 3 days because you have to cut it very, very fast in order to get it before the blowflies get it to it, before there's maggots, huh? So we got it all cleaned up and took it all home in bundles like this, about that thick and about that big around. And took it back home, and it was mostly dried, mostly, not completely. And the old missionary once again said, "Well, brother, how are you going to keep this meat?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "Well, I can show you what you do. You'll get a 200-liter drum." What's that? 50-gallon drum? 50?
Yeah.
50? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
50-gallon drum. And you fill it full. You cut it in little pieces like this, little ones. And you fill it full to the top. And then you take plastic and put it around the top like this. And you hold it, and you take a piece of rubber, like a big thick rubber band, and you hold it, and somebody takes ether. Says, keep the ether away from your nose, because the ether will suck out your oxygen, you know. Keep the ether away from your nose, pour it in cotton, throw it in, pull it tight. And you got a vacuum-packed drum. Anything that's in there will die. Any insects, any kind of it will die. And we kept the meat for about more than 6, 7, 8, 9 months. We kept the meat. We'd open it up, take the little pieces like this, and put them in the cook pot, and they would swell up like this, and it was food for the boys. And now you know you're going to ask, what's it taste like?
Chicken.
Well, kind of chewy, but there's no particular taste, I think. Just it wasn't bad. It wasn't, I wouldn't order it, but you're hungry in the bush. Okay, no more stories like. So that's the first part of my time. I spent. Actually, I taught the first president of Zambia, his son, and he brought his son out to our school because we had the best results in the country. And Brother Joe Wiseman from Finley was the head teacher, and I was teaching. And he brought his son out, and he said, "My son's getting a bit too fat. I want you to work. I want to let him work, and I want him to lose a little weight." So he left the boy with us. He was a good boy. It was okay. And so we had him for a while. Well, 1977, the bishop, a new Zambian bishop, came down to our mission with a priest from Ireland who was a development officer and was a Holy Ghost priest or something like that. And they said, we would like someone to go to Ireland to study integral development because that's what Zambia needs, is integral development. And so I said, I was ready to, yes, I can go. They said, well, we're looking at you and we think that you would be a good one to go. And so
+1-419-634-8032.
So it so happened that I did go, and I spent 10 months in Ireland. I was with Brother Brian when he was there, and we both went together. Spent 10 months learning development. And Ireland was a developing country. We even went on to the islands where there was a lot of development to be done. And then when I come back, I started in development, and just after I came back, war in Angola got a high point, and it was so bad that thousands of Angolans crossed the boundary into Zambia and lived in the villages on this Zambian side. And the number that we were told was around 10,000 people crossed the borders into Zambia. Well, if there was a village with 7, 8, 9 people in a village, all of a sudden there were 30. And how could they feed them? But you know, the African is very, very generous, and he gives what he can. And malnutrition broke out, serious malnutrition. So much so that the United Nations was called. And the United Nations always works with a partner because they have money, but they don't have people to work with. And because the Catholic Church is big in Zambia, they always work with the Catholic Church. So they called us in our diocese and they said, "Are you able to work with the refugees?" And the bishop said, "Yes." He looked at me and he said, "Tony, it's your baby. You're the development officer. What are you going to do?" And all of a sudden, I had a challenge of 10,000 people starving. And the people from United Nations, they have money, they have trucks. They started bringing out trucks of food. Well, you couldn't even find food in Zambia, much less bringing out trucks of maize and rice and cooking oil and sugar. They couldn't do it. And yet they said, "Well, what are we going to do?" And you can't feed that many people with a few truckloads of food. And I suggested a long-term solution, because the war was not going to be over, and so you need a long-term solution. Let's dig fish ponds. Because we had a lot of little streams there where you could get water into the fish pond, and we started the project. And to make a long story short, we brought a truckload of people into the town to be trained how to dig a fish pond and take back the other people that were there and keep going back and forth. It would take about 15, and put them into their places. And we had some guys who were fish pond guys. We gave them motorbikes to go around and start helping the people finding the right place to dig a fish pond and how to dig it and whatever. Well, the story went on. They dug the fish pond and they did a good job. We said, "Okay, now when the pond is finished, we'll prove it. We'll give you some fish to start." So when the ponds were finished, each one would get a bucket of little fish like this to start spawning soon, and then we got them started. Soon, people started coming and saying, "Brother, my fish died. Brother, my fish died. What did you do with them?" "No, we threw them far in the bush." "Brother, my fish died. Give us some more." "Brother, my fish died. Give us some more." They were eating them. They were hungry. And they never let them grow up. And so we really had a struggle trying to keep up the fish ponds. But there was no other solution for a long-term solution to their hunger. But it did turn out being a good solution, so much so that when the war was over, they did manage to go back into Angola. I just finished that, and I only just finished that maybe a month or 2 or 3 when another big problem came up, the war in Rhodesia. And just to give you an idea what Rhodesia was a beautiful little country next to Zambia, and it was run by the whites. Like even in Zambia, it was the British who colonized it and built up the mines and things, you know. And so In Rhodesia, the same thing happened. White people, the South African Dutch and different people, the British, built the country up, and the Africans wanted their freedom. And it was time for them to get their freedom. In Zambia already we had our freedom in 1965. And so there started to be two groups of very, very strong rebels. One was backed by the Russians, and the other was backed by the Chinese. And on one side of the country, there was only two tribes in the country, really, the Shona and the Ndebele. And the Shona were a big group, and they were backed by the Chinese, yes, and Robert Mugabe, who eventually became the president. Well, Mugabe did. And on the other side of the country, along the Botswana border, kind of near to the Botswana border, was the Ndebele, a smaller tribe, and they were backed by the Russians, who really, I'm 90% sure they wanted to get them up into a camp where they could teach them to be soldiers. Now, if you've got kids in high school, you know what that means, to be a hardened soldier. They'll never get hardened. So what happened is something that's very hard to understand. These soldiers, these freedom fighters, went along the border, along the Botswana border, and they went into the schools and said, "Run, the white people are coming to kill you. Run, white people are coming to kill you. Go across the border in Botswana. Run, the white people are coming. Run across the border." And there was a train there, which goes all the way up to Zambia. And they put them on the train. However many there were on the train, we don't know. But I know 13,000 came up to us. And I know there were girls on it. And we spoke one time with the freedom fighters. They were good, decent guys. "Well, what did you do with all the girls?" And they said, "Well, we knew that these kids are going to just be living in the bush. The girls would all be pregnant in another year or so. So we left the girls in Lusaka, and where your friend is, to a place in Lusaka. And 13,000 boys were brought up, all the way up to the Congo, and all the way over to Solwezi, where I was. And past Solwezi, and they put them in the bush. And they put a big fence up in front. No one was to go in there. But the boys began to get sick. They began to die. And so, now this is a hard part of the story to tell. But we were told that they finally asked United Nations if they could come in and help to get food for them to keep them alive. And we know that some were dying, whatever we were dying from, and some were getting sick and they had no doctor. In fact, there was a Jesuit priest in Zimbabwe who was a dentist before he became a priest. And he got across the border, because if he'd have gone through the border post, they'd have caught him, because he was not acceptable, let me put it that way. I think he got across the river by leaving his motorbike on one side and got the Africans to paddle him across in a canoe, and he got to there. And the Catholic secretary offered him to come up and work with me in the camp. And he was a dentist, and dentists know a lot of medicine, probably almost as much as a doctor does. And he became their doctor. And the freedom fighters said, only thing they said, "Please, you men, please, no evangelization, just keep them alive." And as I said in the beginning of the thing, what is a missionary? Is a missionary going to stand there and say, "Now in the Gospel of John, you keep them alive. That's all you can do"? So And so we got involved, and once again, I was asked by the bishop to be part of it, team, and I went out there. And one thing that is very, very touching, there were 6 of us walking in the camp with it. There were 3 Africans. The bishop was one of the Africans. And there were 3 of us expatriates, I guess you call white people, huh? And we got through the gate, and we were being led in by the freedom fighters. And all 13,000 boys were along the side of the road. And we just kept going, looking at them. I didn't know what to think. I mean, it was the white army, the white Rhodesian army that was persecuting them. And they could look at us and say, "You dirty, rotten white man." But they didn't. Or they could look at us and say, "Whoa, somebody's coming to help us." But they didn't. They just were like that. They were half dead. So we walked along, and finally we stopped them. They spoke English. And we said, What is your situation here? They said, "Sir, we get 3 meals a week. We're fed once on Monday, once on Wednesday, once on Saturday." Now, I was eating 21 meals a week, and they were getting 3. Growing boys. Can you get me some water?
Yep.
Yeah. And that is, after that, my whole life changed. How do you get food? All the countries around us were in war or problems. And Zambia, we're the peaceful little country. All the refugees come to us. Now, where do you get food? And the United Nations said, "You can have whatever money you want." I had so much money I couldn't use it. And they said, "You go get transport." Thank you, Mary. And I said, "Transport, okay, how about a Toyota 7-ton truck?" "No, you get a Mercedes-Benz 10-ton. And you put a 10-ton trailer on it, and you get a driver, and you go for food." Where do you find food when all the countries around you are in trouble? I had to go through both Malawi, which was a friendly country, to Kenya, or Tanzania first, and then to Kenya to get food. And come back. And that was a big part of my mission, to keep them alive. And we did that as much as we could, for as long as we could. Also, they didn't have any place to sleep. They just were sleeping on the ground. They had a blanket and sleeping on the ground. Well, the rain season was coming soon. What are they going to do? Get under the trees? So we got in touch with Germany, and through the United Nations and through their contacts in Germany, and we had big, what do they call it? The big caribou, Canadian caribou plane. Whether you could ride trucks in the back of them, big things like that. And we had enough tents for the 13,000 boys and for the guards. And that plane was flowing into, and we got all those tents out to them. It was a joyous day for them, that they had a place to sleep when the rain came at night. And so we tried to find food for them. I had one experience what I thought was so great. I had a motorcycle. Sometimes I would go out to the camp on the motorcycle, and I was going down the road, and a truck was coming in from the Angola side, and it was full of pineapples, big, beautiful, ripe pineapples. And he was going this way, and I was going this way, and I thought, I turned around, and I went by, and I waved him down. I said, "Where are you going with the pineapples?" He said, "I don't know, I have to sell them in the town one by one." I said, "What do you want for the whole lot?" He never had anything like that. And he might, whether he mentioned something or not, I gave him double and said, "Follow me." So I went into the camp with a motorcycle like a police escort behind me. And you wanted to see the boys when they saw those pineapples. It was pure joy. So I wrote an article in an international magazine, The Joy of Half a Pineapple. And that it went internationally. Well, that was just for some of the experience with them. We finally got them to one meal a day. And they thought they were in heaven, one meal a day. And I still kept thinking about, we have 3 times that much. But we had them there with us for 2.5 years. And finally the war came to an end. In 1980, Zimbabwe got its independence. And after the independence, we started thinking about getting the boys home. Well, how can you take so many boys home when I don't even know how they got there. But we got buses from Zambia. We could get like 10 buses that would hold 50 boys. 50 boys each. Well, 10 buses with 50 boys, that's 500. Divide 500 into 3,000, and how many buses would you need? And that was how we started getting them back. And we would take then the pickup truck that I had, put in a big cooking pot, and put some vegetables and some food or some cornmeal, and we would start to go down the road ahead of them. And the boys would be coming behind us in the buses. And we would stop at the town, get out, start cooking food. And by the time the buses would come, we'd say, get out, go in the bush and pee, and come back out, and we'll give you some food. And as soon as they ate, we packed it up and went run again to the other side of the country. We had to feed them 3 times just to get to Zimbabwe, and come back and start again. Just imagine. Just get 13,000 boys home. We did get them home. They stayed at a school that was called Fatima School. It was a girls' school, boarding school, but it was empty and bullet holes all over. The church had bullet holes through it, and it really was war in that country. And they stayed in that camp, and we went back a year or so later, and they said, we found relatives for every one of the boys. Sometimes the father was killed or whatever, but we got somebody for each one of the boys. So that was a good system. Well, when that was finished, the only thing I could say was I was burnt out. My prayer life was with me in the steering wheel. My community life, with me and Brother Randy, was me in the steering wheel. My whole life was completely different, and I had no real support except a priest. And by the time I got finished, I was physically, mentally exhausted. And so the provincial says, well, you go to St. Louis University. That was Wayne who said that. Mm-hmm. And Joachim Giermek, yeah. And go to St. Louis University and study and renew yourself. And I did, and that's when I got into formation, forming students, forming seminarians. What after that? When I came back, I went to the minor seminary where there was about 25 young men who were in the seminary. They come out of high school and they say, we want to be a Franciscan, we want to learn how. So they were there for 2 years, first year and second year. And I was there for a long time teaching the seminarians how to teaching them and trying to feed them and it was a good experience. And being a spiritual director, and that's what I kind of said before. What is a missionary? He's not just a teacher, but he has to be love your God and love your neighbor, really. And so I had the experience of this one and this one and this one and this one, and now I was a teacher again, and teaching. What can I say about that? I was in the seminary, working, teaching. It was a very good experience. I was trying to keep up the animals in the garden. Oh, it was fish ponds. I dug fish ponds, and we had 6 big fish ponds, each one about the size of the whole lake here, and to the back. And we were growing fish for them, teaching them how. Well, in about 1984, that was in 1984. In 1999, 13 years later, I was sent to the place where I am now, Garneton, the place where this started. And when I first went there, I was with Father Juniper. Some of you might remember Father Juniper. Yeah, he was here at the shrine, and I was there with him. He was a very fine fellow to be with. And I went with him one morning to the sisters. And I went one morning with him, and we went over to the sisters. He celebrated Mass, and at the sisters, they said to me afterwards, "Brother, look at this. There's a pile of sand here, and there's a pile of little stones here, and we would like to have an orphanage. We would like to have an orphanage for our novices." They had girl novices to become sisters. "We would like to have an orphanage. If somebody could help us build it." And I said, "I think I can do that." Yeah. So Juniper said, "Oh, yeah, it's good." I went to Bishop Dion. He was a marvelous man. He was a great guy. And I said, "Bishop, we went to the sisters, and they would like to have an orphanage for their novices to learn how to take care of little orphans." And I said, "I think that I could do that. Could I have your blessing on that?" He said 2 words, "Tony, no." And he smiled. He said, "We don't need orphanages. We need education. Our people, our kids need to be educated. People will have to take care of their own orphans, just like old people in the country. We don't really have old folks' homes. We have to take care of our own old people in the villages." And he was very strict. And when he said it, no, education, I knew he was right. And I started there. I started with this building. And it was just starting, and just put a top on it and went on. And the more I sent pictures back to people, the more I told people when I was building the school, the donations came. So that would have been about the year 2000. Up to date, really, but it's been finished for 5 years. 2000. About 12, 14 years to build it. And we had a lot of little kids. We first started out with a primary school. And the little kids in the primary school, some of them hardly had shoes on. And then it grew bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, until one time we had 1,400 children, and we were just too big, and I couldn't keep up the teachers anymore. And even the government came and said, "Look, brother, you have a nice school here, but you're too big." I said, "Yes, what can we do?" So they offered me a thing called grant aid. Grant aid is a project that whatever school you have, they offer to give you aid, the payment for the teachers. And we had 50 teachers. So if you have 50 teachers and you're paying 50 salaries, that is a very big gift. So that means that all we had to do, it's our property. This is 8 hectares. What is that, Tom, in
Acres.
acres? 20 acres, maybe 25, something like that. 8 hectares. Teachers?
Yeah, teacher heart.
Yeah, it goes way back here. It goes back here. It comes way over. You can't even see the teachers' houses. The teachers' houses are off to the side here. And these are all the plots for the kids. You can see some of the green plots. Every kid was supposed to learn agriculture. And so there's a lot more that you can't see on there. But the school built up then, we had to make a decision whether we were going to go for primary or secondary, if we were going to get the grant. And there was no secondary school in that part of the country. So we went for secondary, high school. And we had grade 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And that's when we started continuing to build it. And it built up and built up and built up. The last building here is the big one. Maybe you have a picture of it later on.
Yeah.
Well, anyhow, let's see until later. The last one was built as an auditorium, and the famous doctor from Washington, D.C., helped me to get started with it. It probably cost $500,000. I know in America it would cost much, much more. But it's 10 decks up, and it's made, it says for 350 kids. We put 850 kids in. And we've got every one of the kids in that dormitory. And they have what do you call it on the ceiling?
Projector?
Yeah, projector, and project onto the front screen of the thing, like that. And that is where we are now. After a period of time, I was asked to help with the novices. So on the same property, if you go down this road, there's a road there, and go left a bit, just about a short ways is our mission. And in the mission, we have built then a novitiate with 24 self-contained rooms. Once again, we had no contractors, did it ourselves. This one needed a contractor. That needed a contractor. So I am now teaching in the seminary. I have 9 novices now. Last year I had, I think, 13. The year before that, I think, was 11. And they are in the spiritual year, the year that is very strict. They pray so many times per day, and they have to work. They have to prayer and work, ora et labora. Yeah, prayer and work. And they're good boys, and I'm teaching them. Before I got into the teaching of the novices, somebody from Michigan, sent me a donation, and he said, I would like for you to start a project, and I would like for it to be so successful that whatever you get from that project, I would like you to start the next project, another mission. And so I started Bananas. Some of you had heard about it. And we were quite successful with the Bananas, and I did even start the major seminary in Lusaka, and with Bananas. And then all of a sudden, disease came down out of the Congo. I failed to say, but we're quite close to the Congo, or my mission now. I probably could drive there in 45 minutes in the Congo. But the problem with the Congo is more in the north and we are down in the south. And a disease came out of the Congo which made the top of the banana go what they call bunchy top. It just bunched up and the banana didn't get too big and it was contagious. We had to cut them out quickly and burn them or pull them away. Otherwise the next plant would get contagious. It affected. So after a period of time, I lost the bananas. So now we're planting our own maize, our own, which we eat. And in our seminary, we have about 90 pigs, and we do butcher them all the time. And most of the meat goes to the seminarians. We have about 300 chickens, broiler chickens, that are ready for market, and from little chicks to big chicks in 6 weeks. And yeah, if you feed them properly. And most of that goes to the people. So we have to start once again getting little chicks and pig feed and that to keep things going. What more can I say? That's where I am now. And that's where I'm going back to in January. I'm going back to my old home and learn how to they tell me the corn is this high. They're sending me little photos and I have to find fertilizer or something for them, and that's where I will be. So I'm going January 3rd to Rome, and I'll be in Rome for a week with Father Provincial, and after Rome we go back to Zambia. Brother Randy's going to take me to Mount St. Francis on the 27th of this month, right? Yeah. So that's my story. Yes.
On the pigs, they're obviously not in this picture. Where do you keep your pigs?
On another property.
Oh, they're, okay.
They're about here.
And where did you grow the bananas? In the trees?
No, it wasn't at the school, it was at the mission. We have two, that mission is also 8 hectares, which is 20, let's say 25 acres. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Joe?
What do you get the stool to do show this? Not your rosette.
I'll show those pictures if anybody
You
has
said
any
about the show
questions.
on the building? That's on the white building?
Oh, no, I couldn't find good roofing. I had to use old roofs to put up there. I didn't, oh. Yeah, that's not snow. We never have any snow.
Do you have electricity?
Yes, we do.
Do
Yes.
you have technology?
If you could see on the top, look on the top of the things. Can you see the solar panels? Point to them.
Okay,
Point to them. Solar panels.
there you go. All right.
That we have solar on the top of the building. And at the mission, we also have solar. Yeah.
And there's a reflection of what is this shadow of a tall?
Oh, I crawled up the tower. There's a cell phone tower. I crawled up
So
there.
they do have cell phones.
Take a picture.
Okay.
Yeah. This is. Can you see the tower?
Uh-huh.
You see all the little kids? You can't.
Oh,
They have uniforms. Yeah.
Now, where did they get their uniforms
They have. We sell them to them.
from? Are they made in Zambia?
Yeah,
Sears.
they are.
Amazon.
Would you like to take more questions, or would you like me to go through the photos?
Well, any questions I can. How much time did I take?
All night.
An hour.
No, all night.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, let's look at this.
Yeah, if you want to pull up any more stories.
All right.
I did have the picture of the
elephant?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
What are your seasons? You got a rainy season?
We have 6 months of rain and 6 months of dry.
Dry?
So we plant in the rain, and we don't have winter wheat like you do. But we have,
Everybody else has said it was 3-story.
Do you think it's a?
here's, I don't know,
What do you use to plow your fields? You have plows?
my chapel that I have.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is. Oh, you got him. That's on the chief,
Oh, no.
I did a lot of work.
right there.
Here's your thing.
Between the eye and the ear.
Jeez.
And did I say that when I was laying on my stomach, I wasn't shooting like this. I was shooting like this. And I think, now, how high do you go?
Jeez.
Are there other wild animals that you can kill other than the elephants?
Well, yeah, you have to
That's
have
a-
a license.
That's a wing
Oh, you have to have license.
Chicken wing.
Yeah.
That's 6 weeks, that's how they grow the chicken.
This dang thing.
I think you got that.
This was a pretty funny
Oh,
photo.
you got it also.
Yeah, we got, now we got. So what kind of bonus is
Oh, my.
Flintstones.
Oh, my God.
That's got to be a female. I didn't think so.
Yes. Brother Brian took that picture and he says, we need protein. That gives you an idea of the tibia bone.
Wow.
Yeah.
how do they plow the field? Do they have plows?
Well, this time, I borrowed a tractor. Plowing? Yeah.
No, is this the gym or the auditorium?
Well, that's the auditorium. Yeah, that's, I don't have any pictures of a double story of it.
I've got those. They should be one of the next ones coming up here. Is this groundbreaking for the auditorium?
Oh, yes.
Is that you?
Yeah. The kids had signs up that says, thank you, Dr. Bob, because he gave a good portion of the money to get started.
Wow.
And then we were just throwing soil all over the place. Well, you've got some good ones there. Yeah, he's the contractor.
It is kind of.
And this woman is coming tomorrow. Mary, he's coming tomorrow. You heard about her? Rosemary tell you about her?
What is the foundation made out of? Is that stone, cement, or what?
Oh, yeah. A lot of cement and a lot of steel. So much steel, you can't imagine.
What is it?
Steel.
Steel.
Oh, there's
Now, okay, this is the 10 decks you can see going down. The kids. And this, you can see that the audit, that it's reflected.
Chapel that he had built.
Oh.
Wow, what a wonderful.
So St. Francis Technical Secondary School.
Spiritual.
And those kids, go back, those kids are actually, that one is really grade 8. Only about this big. And they're smart. They're clever little ones.
So it's girls and boys?
Yes. Well, 50-50. And we want to make it 50-50. We don't want a whole school full of boys because of the girl child. You know about the girl child, huh? She has to have similar opportunity. Zambia is doing very well.
Now, do they bring the bus to school, or do they take a train or a plane? How do they get to school?
Walk.
They walk from their house?
Few of them have hired a bus. Now, our school is becoming popular, so that some of the people would like to get into our school, and they hire a bus to bring them every day.
Do they pay tuition to go to your school?
Yes, they do, yeah. People want their, it's just like here at Our Lady of Consolation. You have to pay, but everybody I talk to says, I don't know if you agree, but when your kids go to ORLC school, they're better off than going to public school. Am I right? I've heard people say
I thought it
that.
was the case.
And it's the same with us. When the kids come to our school, they get a much better education than in the public schools.
Well, over there.
I give retreats.
Bigger.
I have 1-to-1 retreats. Yeah.
Oh,
That's a
that's
senior.
cute.
Betty, can I tell the story?
Yeah.
Did I tell you?
I don't remember this one.
I saved that child from abortion.
Oh, wow.
I saved that child from abortion. I don't have a picture of the mother, but now this is not so nice to listen to, but you have some people there who are involved with alcohol and drugs and whatever. This girl, her mother had 5 children, and I don't think she ever had more than one husband or whatever. She got 5 children anyhow. And the one called Precious was about 14, and her auntie was a very, very attractive woman, and the kids liked Auntie Bernadette. Oh, they liked her. And she took Precious down to the bar, and she said to the guy in the bar, "You want this for her night?" And he said yes. He gave her some money, and he took the child, and she took the money and went drinking. Well, the child told me this herself. This isn't hearsay. She told me what her auntie did. And she said that a couple months later or whatever, she said, "My tummy, Auntie, my tummy." She said, "Don't worry." She took a bottle of Coca-Cola, the auntie, put something in, and said, "Drink it." And she aborted the child, the fetus. About a year or so later, Mary, the one who was in this picture just over here, Mary came to me and she said, she's pregnant again. And she was only 16 now. And she said, she's pregnant again. I said, how do you know? She says, we see here, she's pregnant. I couldn't see it, but the 2 of us went and took the auntie to the police. Well, she'd been sleeping around with the police, so she didn't get too much police. This is the reality of life. Yeah, it's not that. And we stopped the abortion. The abortion pills were already in the house. She had told Precious, "You have to get an education to get the child out." And then we threw the abortion pills away, and we saved that child. I claim that's my child. You have any more of that child?
Got a cute little teddy bear.
Yeah.
She's not there. I'm not sure if I have any more of her.
Yes.
Oh,
Wait a minute.
The one in the middle?
She's in the middle.
And what is her name?
Maria. Yes. Any child, anybody they want me to give a name to, I say either Mary or Claire. Father Wayne, he's now in Cary. He's going to be your parish priest here, or assistant priest. Can you see him?
Which one is it?
Randy, you recognize him?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there he is. There's my St. Louis University suit shirt. Oh, there's Maria.
Oh,
She's in the cook pot.
that's it.
She look very happy being there.
Yeah. There's my novices.
Oh.
Wow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I think this is the old group came in with the new group, because there's 2 groups there. So someday, most of them might become priests.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's when your hair was darker.
Yes, we had a tree planting when we had the blessing of the school. We planted trees. So this is the carpentry workshop, kids. They wanted to be in their carpentry workshop tools.
Nope.
Huh?
That might be.
There he is.
Snake.
That is the one we pulled out of the ground.
Oh,
And that is bananas. Wow. Kid, I didn't know you had so many good ones.
Oh yeah, I was trying to pick the winners. Well, I think that's all the pictures. I do have those couple videos if you want to show those real quick.
Well, yes, if you could.
Well,
It's a
this is that man. They're in church. Dancing.
I think it calls for that. Now, once again, go back to it. Can you go back to it?
Yeah.
They're taking their gift up to the altar, and they're dancing, and they're coming back from the altar. They're dancing. No, we go straight forward, and they dance. Because it's celebration. We celebrate. These little dancing girls, they're celebrating in front of the altar.
Good. Sorry, the audio's so bad.
They love to sing.
Was that in the auditorium?
No, that's in the chapel. They're in the church down there.
Oh, okay.
That's the church.
Tony, how long does one of the masses last
It's celebration. It's not duty. It's celebration. This is my novice is singing about Hittikat. My soul proclaims the greatness of the Lord. This is my church now.
How many languages do you speak?
That's the Altar Cross. Actually, I got that from New Mexico. Chica. And drumming.
You got seeds in there? Sounds like it has seeds in there.
Yes. If has any pictures.
That was a deer, was it?
Huh?
That hippo wasn't here, was it?
Do you have any pictures of the hippo?
Let me see if I can pull it up. I thought I did. This is a video from when you were on that tower.
Oh, wow. Now I can see.
Oh. Oh, yeah. Well, you can see the teachers' houses now.
Did you build
the
those
teachers'
also?
houses down there. There's 17 teachers' houses, including this one down here.
Did you build those?
Yes. That's your eyes, buddy. Well, what else do you have? Oh, this is in the auditorium now. Communion time. Look at the kids up there.
Did you have a lot of COVID there?
Yes, we did, yeah. This is Mary, who's coming here tomorrow.
I think I got two more that we picked out.
Notice our chords don't have any nuts because they don't have their vowels yet.
Yeah.
They're told that they're supposed to give something as a gift. They bring a coin.
I know, those bananas are so great. Yeah.
Cheers.
Here he is.
Did you name him? Does he have a name?
Well, they call him Billy. Then they found out it was female.
Billy with an I. Is that, looks like somebody's gonna feed him.
Well, here's the story. I think I've got it in the thing there.
Bruce has a picture.
You ever seen anything like that?
No. Not anybody else.
Oh, I didn't notice.
Yeah, there's a statue there.
Can you show this one?
I don't have got that one on there. I wish I could just do like an overhead projector, but
This is Father Vince Peterson. I think he was here at the shrine.
Yeah.
Father Vince Peterson came to Zambia, and we took our novices, and we were celebrating Mass under an avocado tree in the chimpanzee orphanage. And in the middle of the first reading, the hippo came down, and he just didn't do anything. He put his head down. Went through the first reading, the second reading, the third reading. He just stood there. And then when Father Vince started preaching, then he got nervous. He picked up a ball cap. And he spit it out. And then he started to go for the altar. There's a little altar there. And he started to go for the altar. And I got in front of him. And he gave me a bump in the back. And then I said to the boys, "Don't we have something to eat?" And they said, "Yes, we got some oranges and apples. Put them on the ground." So he started eating the oranges and the apples, and we went 50 yards down the road and tried to finish the Mass. And when he finished, he came to us again. And this time he kept going for the altar cloth. And I stood in front of him, and the next time he bumped me in the stomach. And I said, "Guys, don't you have anything?" He said, "We got some cookies. We got some cookies and some oranges." Put them down. So we went back to the thing, and Father Vince was preaching all this time, walking back. You would never see him. It was quite the ordeal. And then when we got finished, we had the pair at the sign of the end of the Mass, at the offerings, somebody said, "That Willie, Lord, that Willie would be happy and go sleep under a tree." And he did. And then when we were getting into the car, Father Vince said, could anybody give me a resume of my homily? Have you ever seen God tell him that? Maybe 12 years.
Oh, if you want to tell a story about
Yes.
the hippo, Tony, you could tell about the one that you showed.
This one.
Yes, that's
The hippo, when he was little, he went inside the house and slept on the couch. And when it got big, the couch collapsed. And when it got bigger, even bigger yet, they tried to keep him out of the house, and he tried to go through the door, and he got stuck at the door, and he pushed the door frame right out.
Was the couple orphaned? Is that why?
Mother had been killed.
He took care of it.
Yes, it does.
You'll never see a picture like that again.
You tell them about that statue that was in the retreat house there that you told me. You tell me about that. You told me down home that that statue was built out of and then your retreat house, I would have made it bigger.
Where you were given the retreat. It's in that picture.
I think.
I thought that was interesting when you were down there.
He goes back to where you give individual retreats. It's in that picture.
Knock down the side houses.
Ted had it up on the tree.
Was it?
This one.
This one's on the couch.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
There it is.
You found it. There it is.
Okay.
There.
When I built this retreat house, I made it round. It's it's half the size of this room. I put a peg in the ground and a piece of string, and I went around and I said, too small. Too small. A little bit more. Okay. And I made it round, no plans, nothing, just start building. And we got it up, and actually, I have another picture over here. When it got up, I was putting the roof on the top. And on the top, the roof was not a good one. It was the only one I could get. And it was of another material that was breakable. This one is grass. And I went on the top of the roof to put the cupola up on the top. And I got from the whole distance, much higher than this one, to the stone floor. So I now have a titanium hip. But when we made this, I had the carpenter, the artist, make that Blessed Virgin. And I said, I want her to be 6 foot tall like me. And I want her to, you know, Jesus started inside there. So I want you to hold the tabernacle. She holds the tabernacle. And now we put the Blessed Sacrament there. So if you see, she's holding the tabernacle. And that's where I wanted the Blessed Sacrament to be. And when he made the statue, it took him about 10 months. The log he used wasn't like this. It was like this. And it took about 5 men to lift the log. And he chiseled away. He chiseled away. And he just kept chiseling. Everything is perfect. You can't see how nice she is. And he kept chiseling. And when he got to the face, he left the face till last. He said because he wanted the face to be afraid someone would break off the nose or something. And he said, what kind of face do you want on there? I said, well, he said, do you want a European face? I said, she wasn't European, she was Jewish. Oh, what's the Jewish right? What's the Israeli? What's that like? I said, well, I don't know about that. I'll get some photo or something for you. So I gave him kind of an idea with the photo. And he made it so nice. Can you bring it in any closer?
The resolution's a little bit low, so
Yeah. Well, her hair and her veil and her eyes and her nose is Jewish. Well, but her mouth is African. So she's half African.
What kind of wood is it made out of?
Hard, we call it.
Is it ebony?
Mukwa. Probably something like what do you have here that's hard?
Ochre.
Oh,
No,
maybe
it's
something
soft.
like that.
Mm.
Hard.
Yeah, yeah. Osage orange.
Oh, that's hard. That's
Yeah.
hard.
It's only harder when it's dry.
Yes. Burns well.
It burns well.
You
Yeah.
told us a story one time that you killed the hippo and it sunk into the water.
You want to hear that story? That was for the chief. The chief was a very good friend of mine. And he would send a messenger and he would say, I got permission from the wildlife department and I have permission to kill an elephant. I have permission to kill a hippo. So he said, now, if you want the meat for your boys, you can kill the hippo. Or if you don't, my uncle will do it. So he said, yes, I'll do it. So we went to the river and we I have to tell the whole story? We went to the river and when we walked a long ways and we couldn't see him. Finally one come up like this and just the head. All you see is this much. And you say, where's the brain? You know, or just a little bit of the nose. Where's the brain? And it's like this coming out of the water. And I tried to figure what I could shoot. I didn't want to shoot just in the nose or whatever. And so I tried the shot, and it went boom, boom, and then gone. And the African said, "You didn't kill it." And then we waited and we waited and we waited, and it turned up on the other side of the river. Underneath a tree, there were tree hanging down there. We could see it over there. And this time, I lay in the mud. I was so much mud, I looked like a pig. I lay in the mud and rested the gun on a muddy oak, and I took the second shot. And it went down, and came out to the middle, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And they said, "You killed it." The Africans know these things. So, an old African white man had told me that when you kill a hippo, it will go down under the water and it will be there for 60 minutes, and then the stomach will start bloating up and it will come up like a balloon. That's what he said. So I looked at my watch. I said, "No, I got 1 hour. What am I going to do?" So I started cleaning off the gun and took off all my clothes. I was sitting up in the tree with my underpants, only my underpants, no shoes, no gun, no nothing. In 59 minutes, it came up. And I said, the guys were around. There were 3 or 4 Africans with me. And they were around and they said, "Oh my gosh, it's there." And I said, "Follow me, bring my gun, bring my shoes." And I started running down the path. And the hippo was going down the road, down the river, floating with his feet up, the head. And he was floating. And I was running along the river with just my underpants on. And the Zambians were dying laughing. And finally, you come to a corner, and there's a sandbank on the corner, and it's stuck on the sandbank. And I said, "Okay." Now I said to them, "I'm going to go out there and get it next to it." And I said, "I'm going to put a rope around its foot. If you can send me some kind of rope, whatever it is." And he said, "Okay." They said, "Okay." So I went out into the water. I got about this deep in the water, like this. And then I thought, crocodiles follow blood.
Oh.
Oh, crocodiles follow blood. Yeah, that's And so I said, come on guys. So I crawled up on top of a hippo. The 2 feet sitting like this and the other 2 feet sticking up like this on the top of his head. And I crawled up and I jarred him loose. And we started going down the river and I was sitting on top holding onto his legs and no camera.
Oh.
No, if we had a camera on this, I could have made an international photo.
In your underwear.
No camera. And then I kept screaming to the guys. I says, hey, follow me. And they were following me, carrying my shoes and the gun and everything. And we came to the river again. And the second time, it caught from the sandbank. And I said, please don't disturb it. Just throw me the rope. And this time, they threw me a rope and I tied the leg and I pulled it out. And then we had to pull it out as much as we could and start cleaning it right there in the water. So then that's when the crocodiles get what they want. Yeah. So no camera. If I would have ever got a photograph of that. How did you remember that?
That's one of my favorite stories.
So there.
All right. Well, I don't know if I know we're about, it's 8:15, so I imagine if people want to hang around and chat and everything, we can. You know, if you want to keep going, I mean, I don't know. It's really up to you and everybody else, but if this is a good stopping point, I'll stop though. We still got one person watching online, so.
Oh, really? You get her online?
Yeah. What do you think, Brother Tony?
You put it online.
Yeah.
Even the story about the hippo.
Yeah.
Well.
Okay.
We can take it down if you want.
So that's missionary life. Missionary life, as I said, is not going out with the Bible, preaching. Yes, that's okay. It's not going in and preaching to people in the village and saying, oh, you have to do this and you have to do that. It's not just building a school. It is really going, loving your neighbor and doing what is necessary for his good. And that I found out when I worked with those refugees. When I learned that they needed food, my whole mission was to keep them alive. And we did. We did it. With the help of the United Nations, they got a lot of money and everything. We did it.
What is next for you?
All working with these novices. Good boys.
Did the sisters then get their orphanage started? Were the sisters able to get their orphanage? No? Okay.
They wanted something for the girls to do. Okay, it's good if the girls would take care of orphans, but the bishop said people have to take care of their own children. We just can't set up these institutions for orphans and for old people and all this. We have to take care of them. And he said, education. He's really stressed, we need education. And he was right. He was really right.
Well, they have hospitals there too, don't they? They got in the medical field.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I know some people still have questions and stuff, but it seemed like that was, if you were bringing it to a good summary there. Maybe we should give Brother Tony a big hand, and anybody who wants to stick around, feel free to do so. Thank you very much for coming. All right, I will end the Facebook Live, bro.